Michael Jordan had learned to silence the world with his actions. On the court, words weren't necessary. Off the court, he also preferred silence. But on that overcast morning, when he opened a handwritten letter with no return address and shaky lines, something in his long shielded heart began to give way. You may have conquered the world, but you lost the truth. And I, who was called crazy, have been waiting 20 years for you to listen with the right ears. L. Jordan recognized the initial, Lisa Miceli, a name he had avoided since 2005, when everything exploded. The headlines, the lawsuits, the accusations, the DNA tests. And then, the court-ordered silence. She accused him of being the father of her child. 2 tests came back negative. A legal agreement was signed. She was supposed to stay away. But Lisa didn't stop. She violated the order, sent dozens of emails, showed up at events, was arrested, and then she vanished from the media, like a shadow that haunted him only in his deepest nightmares. But now, at 62, and with a life full of achievements, Michael found himself facing a new doubt. What if, even with the tests saying no, some part of it was true? The letter didn't ask for a reunion. It didn't beg for forgiveness. It was simply a whisper from the past, saying, "You've been running away for too long." 2 days later, Jordan stepped out of a rental car in Erie, Pennsylvania, under a gray and silent sky. He was alone. No bodyguards. No press. No one knew where he was. In front of him, a small wooden house, painted light blue, with the porch edges covered in dry leaves. This was where Lisa Miceli now lived, at 76 years old. Far from the internet, far from the tabloids, far from the scandal that ruined her life. He took a deep breath, knocked on the door. Silence. He was about to knock again when a faint but firm voice came through the door. "The door isn't locked, Michael." He froze, slowly pushed the door open. The creak of the wood greeted him like an unresolved memory. The room was dimly lit. Piles of papers, sealed boxes, books scattered. An old clock showed 11:12. Sitting in a worn-out velvet armchair, wrapped in a brown wool shawl, was Lisa Miceli. Aged? Yes, but her eyes held the same restless spark of someone who had never accepted being silenced. She looked at him for a long moment without smiling. "Took you 20 years. But I knew you'd show up eventually." Michael remained standing, hands in his coat pockets. "I got your letter. I didn't expect you to come. Didn't even want you to. But if you're here, then sit. Because I don't have much time. And you have a lot to hear." He sat. The silence between them was thick, full of choked-up questions. "Why now, Lisa?" "Because I'm old. Because I kept quiet for years. Because the truth never died inside me. And because you still don't know half of what really happened." Michael frowned. 2 DNA tests. 2 negative results. What else was there to know? Lisa stared at him with a mix of pain and disdain. "Do you know where the tests were done?" "In your lawyer's office. No witness on my side. No clear chain of custody. I was pressured to sign the agreement. But I never believed those papers. And you just wanted it all to go away." Michael lowered his eyes. That part he couldn't deny. "You signed a contract, then broke it, because it was already broken." She shot back, voice cracking. "I had the right to have someone with me during the collection, but I was taken alone. No neutral party, no real security. And even so, you acted like the decision had been fair." He took a deep breath. The memories hit like knives. Meetings with lawyers. Phrases like, "She wants fame. Fix this before it becomes a scandal. She's unstable. You were arrested. Because I fought for something no one wanted to hear. Because I didn't behave like a normal woman. Because no one accepts that an ordinary person challenges an icon like you." Silence. She leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "Michael, I don't want money. Never did. What I wanted was to be heard, to be taken seriously. But you preferred to treat me as a threat. And today, here you are, listening. Because something inside you never found peace. Michael leaned back in the chair, exhausted. Then tell me, Lisa. Tell me what hasn't been said. Tell me what you never got to say out loud. Lisa leaned back, eyes filled with tears. You tell me first. Why did you come? Michael hesitated. Then, replied in a faint voice, because I don't believe in silence anymore either. The room where Michael and Lisa sat seemed out of time. Outside, the world kept spinning, unaware of the reunion between two lives marked by accusations, silence, and old headlines. But inside, finally, what had never been spoken began to surface slowly, painfully, but necessarily. Lisa lifted a small cardboard box from beside the armchair, placed it on the coffee table between them. It was sealed with tape and smudged letters. 2005. Archive. This here, she said, with a sigh, is all that's left of the story everyone wanted to erase, even you. Michael looked at the box. He recognized some petition copies, and among the papers, a copy of the confidentiality agreement signed 20 years ago. His name was there, in blue ink, next to hers. I remember this document, he said. They told me this would end everything. Lisa let out a bitter laugh. For you. For you. For me. It was the beginning of the end. She pulled out a crumpled document and handed it to him. This is the clause you violated. Michael read in silence. Both parties agree to carry out the paternity tests with the presence of witnesses appointed by both parties. He looked up, confused. I thought that had been respected. I asked for my own witness, Lisa said firmly. A neutral person. But I was pressured to show up alone at your lawyer's office. They told me if I didn't, I'd lose any chance of proving the truth. Michael leaned back in the chair. And even so, you signed. Because it was that, or keep being attacked by the media. I was called unstable, an opportunist, a liar, and no one wanted to hear my side. Not even you. Lisa lowered her head for a moment. When she looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. Michael, I was pregnant. That wasn't a fabrication. And the father, I swore it was you. Not because I wanted to trap you, but because that's what I believed. And I still do. Michael looked at the pile of documents. He saw medical records, photos of the boy, letters exchanged with lawyers, drafts of emails that were never sent. And the tests? They came back negative. 2 of them. Lisa looked deep into his eyes. Were you there when the samples were collected? No. Then how can you be so sure they were legitimate? Michael stayed silent. Your lawyers had everything under control. I never saw the original result. I just trusted what they told me. Exactly, said Lisa, raising her voice. You trusted those who protected you. Those who erased traces for you. Those who took care of your image. Not the truth. Michael rested his elbows on his knees. He was there to listen, but every word from Lisa's mouth seemed to dismantle more and more of the comfort he had built over the years. Are you saying that the tests were tampered with? Lisa leaned back, exhausted. I'm saying that you never wanted to know if they could have been. You never questioned it, never asked for a review, never allowed any room for doubt, because it was easier to call me crazy than to admit you might have ignored your own son. Silence. Where is he? Michael finally asked. Lisa lowered her eyes. She touched the edge of the armchair with her fingers, as if seeking strength. He died at 19. Michael felt his stomach drop. How? Motorcycle accident. On a road near Pittsburgh. He worked in a warehouse. He was going home. He hit a truck that ran the light. Michael couldn't say anything. He just leaned back, his gaze lost. He spent his childhood asking about you, Lisa continued, her voice choked. And I told him you were busy, that one day you'd come. She took a deep breath. When he was 10, he saw an interview of yours on TV. He asked if you were his father. I said yes. But when he got older and started researching, He saw the tests. He saw what they said about me. He called me a liar. He pulled away. And we were never able to talk like before again. Michael felt the weight of her words like bricks on his chest. Why are you telling me this now? Because, even with everything, he deserved you knowing who he was. And I deserved to be heard, even if it's too late. She pulled out an old photo from the bottom of the box and handed it to him. A boy with dark eyes, a shy smile, and a basketball in his hands. His name was Ryan. Michael held the photo carefully, as if the slightest movement could tear it. He was handsome, he murmured, and he walked like you. Looked like you. We didn't need DNA to know you two were connected somehow. Silence. Did he ever see you? Once. From afar. When he was little. I was at a public event. You walked through the crowd. He reached out his hand to you. You smiled, shook his hand, and kept walking. You never knew. Michael felt his eyes fill with tears. I want to know more about him. Lisa stared at him, surprised. Even now? Especially now. Lisa stood up with difficulty. She grabbed an old photo album and laid it on her lap. Then sit up straight. Because this story has never been told the way it should. The album was thick, heavy, with a leather cover already worn at the edges. Lisa opened it slowly, like someone unearthing a body full of memories. The first pages showed ultrasound images, prenatal appointment cards, magazine clippings with old headlines, and a photo of her, smiling at the camera, with a prominent belly, standing in front of a Christmas tree. Michael looked at everything silently. That past he always avoided, now unfolded before him like an uncut film, unedited. He was born in 2001, said Lisa, turning to the next page. December 15. Full name: Ryan Missiley. No middle name. I wanted to register him with yours, but not even that was allowed. Michael didn't respond. I thought that if I sent you photos, letters, anything, you'd come. But your lawyers sent everything back with a notice. Threats of lawsuits, gag orders. So I stopped trying. She pointed to a photo. A baby in a wooden crib, holding a teddy bear with a red ribbon. That was his first Christmas. He cried at night. But he calmed down when I played a tape of your best moments with the Chicago Bulls. Believe it or not, his laughter would start during the game against the Utah Jazz. Michael gave a brief, nostalgic smile, then went back to the album. The images advanced quickly. Ryan at 2 years old, covered in yogurt. At 5, dressed as a superhero. At 7, holding a basketball bigger than him. Always smiling, always alert eyes, and always without a father. He wasn't just talented. He was sensitive, loved classical music, poetry, old movies. One time, he wrote a letter to Santa asking for a hug from my dad. Just one hug. I still have it. Michael closed his eyes for a moment. His throat tightened. It was like being introduced to a son who never existed for him, but who lived, felt, longed, suffered. Lisa turned the page. There was Ryan, around age 10. The change was visible. The smile was still there, but less spontaneous. In the background of the image, taped to the wall, was a poster of Michael Jordan, one of the few expensive items Lisa had allowed in the house. That was when he started asking more insistently. He wanted to know why you didn't talk about him. Why TV said I lied. Why kids at school said he was nobody's son. She turned to the next page and paused. This was the letter. It was a yellowed sheet, folded multiple times. Michael opened it carefully. If he knows I exist, maybe he'll come see me. If he doesn't know, then I'll grow up and appear on TV like him. It was signed in childish handwriting. Ryan. Michael leaned back, the letter trembling in his hands. And did he try that? He played basketball. He was good, really good. But he self-sabotaged. He was afraid it looked like he was copying you. He started skipping practice. Said he didn't want to be another Jordan who isn't Jordan. Lisa sighed. At 15, he stopped asking. At 17, he left home, went to work at a warehouse. Said he didn't want to carry the guilt of something he never even chose. Michael swallowed hard. And he never came back? He sent birthday cards. In the last year, he called me twice. The second time was 3 days before the accident. Said he was thinking of traveling, starting fresh, maybe looking for answers. Michael looked at the next photo. It was the last. Ryan, at 19, in front of a small cafe, in his work uniform, tired eyes, more mature face. There was a folded piece of paper in his shirt pocket and, zooming in, Michael noticed. It was a photo of himself, cut from a magazine. He still thought about me, Michael whispered. He never stopped thinking, said Lisa, voice breaking. But you never allowed him to be real. Silence. Michael slowly closed the album. Did he look like me? In gestures? In voice? Lisa nodded. When he got nervous, he clenched his hands like you used to do on the bench. When he laughed, he made that hoarse sound, and he walked with his shoulders slightly hunched forward, like he was carrying the world. Michael didn't know what to say. His eyes were watery, and he didn't care to hide it. I didn't come here expecting forgiveness, he said. But I came to understand. And now, I feel like I lost him twice. Once when I ignored you, and again, when he passed. Lisa wiped her eyes. You can still do something. Michael looked at her. What? She took a small key and handed it to him. His locker. It's still the way he left it, with things I haven't even had the courage to touch. Maybe in there you'll find what even I couldn't see. I effer with Samsa now. N effer N10. Michael held the key. Can I go there now? Yes. It's in the garage. Second door. He used to lock it like it held gold. Michael stood up, walked to the garage, guided by instinct. It was time to see, with his own eyes, who Ryan really was, and maybe discover what was left of a son he never knew. The locker was in the right corner of the garage. Metal, tall, with scratches on the doors and rust stains at the base. It didn't look special, but, as Lisa had said, Ryan locked it like it was a safe. Michael stood there for a moment, in front of the closed door, took a deep breath. He slid the small key into the lock, turned it. A metallic click echoed. And then, with trembling hands, he opened it. The inside was intact, organized, almost meticulously. On the top shelf, there was a shoebox with handwritten markings. Unsent letters. Next to it, a pile of black-covered notebooks, each with dated labels. Below that, a blue folder marked with the word DAD in large block letters. And at the bottom, an old digital camera, the kind that recorded videos on SD cards. Michael picked up the camera. It was charged. He looked around, saw a small outlet on the wall, and plugged it in. The screen lit up slowly, but it worked. On the display were 3 saved videos, all marked with dates. The last one, titled Final. He clicked to watch. The image was of Ryan, sitting in front of the camera. The lighting was dim, his face partly in shadow, but it was him older than in the photos. Scruffy beard, messy hair, tired eyes. And then he began to speak. I don't know if anyone will see this. Maybe no one. Maybe my mom. Maybe him. I grew up hearing he was a myth, the greatest of all. But to me, he was just a whispered name, a face on a poster. I was never sure if he was my father, but I could never believe he wasn't. My mother. She fought so hard. And yes, sometimes it was too much. Sometimes she smothered me. But she loved me. And she always told me one day you'd come. I stopped waiting. But I never stopped imagining. Sometimes, I'd dream that you showed up at my job, called me by name, That we'd go eat at some simple place and talk about basketball, music, even politics. And you'd laugh at me when I tried to act all serious. But those dreams, they're just that. Dreams. If for some reason you're seeing this, I just want you to know, I never hated you. I just wanted to understand why I was never enough for you to give me a chance. Michael paused the video. Tears streamed down his face. He couldn't remember the last time he cried like that. He took a deep breath and pressed play again. I carry your name in silence. No one knows. But I know. And even if the test says no, you're still the most present absence in my life. If you're seeing this, it's already too late. But thank you for looking. My name is Ryan. And I existed. Even if you never met me. The image shook. Ryan looked down. The screen went black. The video was over. Michael sat motionless for a few minutes. Then he rested his elbows on his knees, head in hands. It was like 20 years of silence were breaking all at once, and the sound was unbearable. He grabbed the shoebox full of letters, opened it. There were dozens of notes, handwritten by Ryan, addressed to Dad, Michael, or Mr. Jordan. None ever sent. All kept there, waiting for a destiny that never arrived. In one of them, with shaky handwriting, it read, "Today I dreamed you played basketball with me, but when I woke up, it was just me and the ball." Another, "I wanted to show you a poem I wrote, but I don't know your address. And I don't know if you even care." Michael held the letters like they were made of glass. Each one, a reminder of a life that could have been, of a bond that maybe only existed in the realm of possibility. Then he saw a different letter. It was the only one not folded, just a brown envelope with the inscription, "To be delivered to him, if he ever comes." Inside, a single note. "If you've made it this far, then you've finally seen me. You don't need to be my father. Just be honest. With me, with her, and with yourself." Michael slowly stood up, still holding the camera. He left the garage in silence. Lisa was waiting on the porch. When she saw him, she stood slowly. "You saw it?" Michael nodded. "I saw everything." She wiped her eyes but didn't ask what was inside. He handed her the camera. "It's yours. But I'd like to keep a copy." Lisa took it carefully. "You can keep it." "I think he wanted you to see it before me." Michael looked up at the sky. The wind blew stronger. The trees swayed like they were whispering things only he could hear. "I can't change the past, Lisa, but I want to do something with what's left of it." "What do you mean?" Michael stepped forward. "Ryan deserves to be remembered. Truly. Not as a scandal, but as who he was. As someone who existed." Lisa gave a sad smile. "And how do you plan to do that?" Michael took a deep breath. "I don't know yet. But I'll start by saying his name out loud. In a world that ignored him, he needs to finally be heard." Chicago had never felt so silent. Even amidst the traffic, the lit-up buildings, and the non-stop rhythm of the city that made him a legend, Michael felt like he was back, but in a different reality. During the whole trip back, he never took his eyes off the SD card in his jacket pocket. On it was Ryan's video. The last recording. The final chance to know him, even if posthumously. And the more he watched in silence again and again, during flights, at the hotel, in the car, the more he realized he never had control over this story. He just tried to forget. Now, he couldn't anymore. The next day, Michael called a meeting with his inner circle. Advisors, personal lawyer, one of his sons. No one knew what it was about, but his tone on the phone was clear. "I'm not asking, I'm informing." In the meeting room, the atmosphere was strange. Sitting at the head of the table, Michael looked older, more resolute, more human. "I'm going to tell a story, and I don't want to be interrupted," he said. Then he pulled the camera from his bag and projected the video. Ryan's face appeared on the screen. The deep voice, the measured words, the restrained pain, the hope that never died. When the video ended, no one said a word. The silence was absolute. "Is this true?" the lawyer finally asked. "I no longer have any doubt," Michael replied. "But what about the tests? They were conducted by people who wanted to protect my image. And I let myself be protected too much. I never questioned it. Never looked his mother in the eyes. Never gave the slightest chance." The eldest son shifted in his chair. "And what are you going to do about it now?" Michael looked at him. "Honor what's left. And that begins with a name. Ryan Misely." The lawyer cleared his throat. "Michael, with all due respect, this will reignite the entire controversy. It'll make headlines. It'll open space for accusations, for reinterpretation of a case already closed legally. You don't have to do this." Michael raised his voice, firm. "I don't have to, but I want to. For the first time, I want to. This boy existed, and he was ignored, forgotten, canceled for being the son of a discredited woman. But he left me something more valuable than any contract. The truth." Everyone remained silent. "What exactly do you intend to do?" the advisor pressed. Michael stood, a foundation. In his name, focused on young people growing up without fathers, with talent but no presence, who carry the silence of adults as if it were inheritance. "A foundation?" the son repeated, surprised. "Yes. And I'll make a point of launching it personally. And in the speech, I'll say his name out loud, for the first time." The event was scheduled for 2 weeks later, at a community sports center in the south side of Chicago. The place wasn't fancy, but it had history. There, dozens of young athletes trained on makeshift courts, dreaming of the impossible, just like Ryan, in his silence. The press was called. But no details leaked. They only knew that Michael Jordan would make a major social announcement. Cameras, lights, microphones. Michael stepped onto the stage with an envelope in hand. He took a deep breath. The crowd went quiet. Then, he began. "For many years, I stayed silent about a story that never left my mind. A story involving doubt, pain, and a boy who just wanted to be acknowledged." He paused, opened the envelope and took out a photo. Ryan, age 7, holding a basketball. He held it up to the crowd. His name was Ryan Misely. Murmurs, whispers. Some journalists widened their eyes. Others swallowed hard. He wasn't a scandal. He wasn't a lawsuit. He wasn't an accusation. He was a boy, with dreams, with hope, with a heart bigger than the world wanted to see. Michael discreetly wiped his eyes. "Today, I present the Ryan Misely Foundation, in honor of all the children who never had the chance to discover who they are, who were ignored, labeled, silenced, and who, even so, existed." Applause began, first timid, then strong, sincere. "I was the greatest player in the world." But none of that matters now, because there's a greatness not found in statistics. It's in the ability to recognize mistakes and turn pain into legacy. The crowd stood. Many cried. Others filmed in shock. It was the most human moment of Michael Jordan's career, and he didn't live it on the court, but on a small stage, in memory of someone he never truly knew. That night, at home, he called Lisa. "Did you see it?" "I did," she answered, voice trembling. That's what he wanted. To be seen, not as absolute truth, but as someone who existed. Lisa was silent for a few seconds. "Thank you for doing this," Michael replied, his voice low. "I didn't do it just for him. I did it for me, too." On the other end of the line, Lisa murmured, "Ryan would have been proud." Michael smiled sadly. "I know. And even if it's too late, I hope he heard." 2 days after the Ryan Misely Foundation was announced to the world, the headlines spread like wildfire. Michael Jordan publicly acknowledges name of young man linked to old controversy. After 20 years, Jordan breaks silence on case with Lisa Misely. The son who never was, Ryan's legacy resurfaces with emotional impact. The reaction was far greater than Michael expected. There was support. Of course, many praised him for his courage, humanity, and ability to reassess past mistakes. But there were also criticisms, doubts, and speculations. And it was on one of those mornings, while having coffee in his Chicago penthouse, that he received a call from Alton Briggs, a veteran investigative sports journalist from the independent channel Deep Court. "Michael, I'm calling you with respect, and as someone who's always admired you, but I need to show you something. I'm listening. I received a copy of an old file. I can't confirm the source yet, but it's from one of the offices where the 2005 DNA tests were processed. And the problem is that there are discrepancies in the sample codes. The vials were not cataloged as legally required. There's a second report that was never sent to court." Silence on the other end of the line. "Is this serious, Alton?" "Yes. And I'll tell you something more. This second report suggests there was duplicate collection, meaning there could have been a substitution of material. I'm not directly accusing anyone, but someone didn't want the truth to come out." Michael closed his eyes, in shock. "And what do you intend to do with this?" "I want to hand it to you personally. You decide what to do with the information. I don't want to destroy you. But after what I saw on the foundation stage, I don't think you're the same man from 20 years ago." 2 hours later, Alton arrived with a thick envelope. Michael received him alone. Inside were scanned copies of lab documents, drafts of emails between lawyers, sample records with codes different from those presented to the court, and among them, a handwritten note, unsigned, with only one sentence. "You asked to make this disappear. Consider it done." Michael leaned back, blood frozen. It was as if a buried truth had begun to dig its own way back. "Is this admissible in court?" he asked, looking at Alton. "With technical verification, yes. But more than a trial, Michael. This changes the narrative. And what do you suggest? That you speak. That you say what you discovered. That you come clean before someone else does it for you." Michael shook his head. "And you? Will you publish it? Not without hearing you first. But others may get access." That night, Michael was alone in the room. The camera with Ryan's video was by his side. Alton's envelope was open on the table. The unsigned note. His name in the newspapers. And the doubt. The same doubt he had refused to face for 2 decades. Maybe the tests were right. Maybe not. But now there was more. Real indications that someone, maybe an aide, maybe a lawyer, had manipulated information to protect his image. And he had let it happen. Or worse, had ordered it. But the mind is perverse. It knows how to forget, how to erase. And maybe, back then, the fear of falling had been greater than the courage to listen. Now, it was too late for Ryan. But maybe there was still time for the truth. The next morning, Lisa received a message. Brief, direct. "Can we talk again? It's not about the past. It's about what's not over yet. MJ." She stared at the phone for long minutes, then replied, "I'm waiting. But bring what you never brought before. The willingness to face it all." The blue house in Erie seemed even quieter than the last time. Michael stepped out of the car slowly, Alton's envelope in hand, his face marked by sleepless nights. The weight was no longer on his shoulders, but inside his chest. Lisa saw him arrive through the window. She didn't get up to greet him. She just sat there, in the armchair, with the serious expression of someone who already sensed something important was coming. Michael entered without knocking. The door, like before, was ajar. "You came quickly," Lisa said. "I couldn't postpone it. Not this time." He sat down, like the first time. But now, something was different. His eyes no longer carried just remorse. They carried responsibility. Michael placed the envelope on the table. "This came to me yesterday. From a journalist. A veteran. One of the few who still believes in truth." Lisa didn't touch the envelope. What's in there? Documents, records, evidence that the 2005 tests were conducted with irregularities, that the DNA vials were switched, that there was a second report, one that never reached the court. Lisa swallowed hard. And did you already know about this? Michael took a while to answer. Not for sure. But I suspected. And I chose not to look. I chose to trust silence. I chose to burn that part of my life as if it had never existed. Lisa, hands in her lap, stared at him. And now? Now I'm here. Not to defend myself, but to tell you that maybe you've spent the last 20 years being called crazy when the mistake wasn't yours. Silence. The kind of silence that only forms when two people face the same pain from different sides and finally see they've always been on the same battlefield. Lisa picked up the envelope with trembling hands. Took out the documents. Read slowly. Recognized names. Saw dates. Saw the mismatched codes. And stopped at the handwritten note. You asked to make this disappear. Consider it done. Was this a request from you? Michael took a deep breath. I don't remember saying those words. But I know that, at the time, I said something much worse. Take care of this once and for all. I don't want to hear that name again. Lisa closed her eyes, and the world listened. Even the police listened. They arrested me for not staying silent. When, deep down, the truth had vanished, behind the scenes of an office paid to protect you. She took a deep breath, fighting the pain that surged again. I lost everything, Michael. I was banned from events. Doors were shut. My son lost faith in me. All because I insisted on a truth no one wanted to investigate. Michael lowered his head, and that's why I came. To tell you that I failed too. Not as a father, but as a man. Lisa looked at him for long seconds. And now? What do you plan to do with this? Show it to the world. Not to clear your name, or mine, but to give Ryan what he always asked for, that someone, at least once, would speak the truth out loud. Lisa smiled, but it was a melancholic smile. He didn't want fame, didn't want money. Michael nodded. I want to hold a press conference, explain everything, present the documents, tell them that it wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice of convenience, and that I was complicit, even in silence. Lisa frowned. This will shake everything. Contracts, partnerships, your family. Michael shrugged. I was once the most respected man on the planet. Now I just want to be someone who's at peace with the mirror. She closed the envelope. If you do this, you'll be giving me back something that was taken. Dignity. And to Ryan, memory. They fell silent. On the table between them, the envelope remained. Open. Raw. Real. Let me go with you, Lisa said suddenly. Michael looked at her, surprised. To the press conference? Yes. I don't want to appear. I don't want to speak. But I want to be there. To see with my own eyes what the world never allowed me to see. The day you finally said I wasn't crazy. Michael nodded, eyes full. You deserve that. Lisa got up, went to the bedroom, returned with a small, laminated photo of Ryan smiling, holding a basketball, wearing a Red Bulls jersey. Put this on the podium when you speak. Let his face be there. Let him finally be seen. Michael held the photo with both hands. He will be. Front and center. As he always should have been. The overcast Chicago sky reflected the mood of anticipation hanging over the auditorium. The main hall of the Lincoln Hall Foundation was packed. Chairs filled with journalists from all over the country. Tripods raised like sentinels for a historic moment. Powerful lights. Electric silence. The promise was a personal and unprecedented statement from none other than Michael Jordan. Rumors were swirling. Some said it would be the announcement of a new sports franchise. Others bet on a biographical documentary. But no one imagined what was about to happen. At the center of the stage, a single dark wooden table. On it, a microphone, a sealed envelope, and a picture frame with the image of a young man. Chicago Bulls t-shirt, shy smile, holding a basketball. A face unknown to the general public, but with a name that would soon echo around the world. Ryan Miceli. At exactly 3 p.m., Michael appeared, dressed in black from head to toe, reserved stride, steady gaze. As he stepped onto the stage, the audience instinctively rose. But he raised his hand, asking for silence. He sat down, adjusted the microphone calmly. "Thank you for being here." His voice, usually commanding, sounded different. Low. Laden with something hard to name, perhaps regret. "I've been on this stage many times, to celebrate achievements, launch projects, share glories. But today, I'm here to talk about silence, and the terrible cost it can carry." A slight murmur began to spread. Journalists glanced at each other. Phones were discreetly activated to record every word. And then, he got straight to the point. "In 2005, I was involved in a paternity allegation. The woman's name was Lisa Miceli. She claimed her son, Ryan, was mine. 2 DNA tests were conducted. Both came back negative. And a legal agreement ended it all. Officially. Pause, but it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of what I now consider the gravest mistake of my life." The tension in the room was palpable. In recent days, I've received documents that reveal something disturbing. The samples collected at the time were tampered with, and worse. Someone from my inner circle directly interfered to ensure that one of the tests, the one with a different result, was ignored. A collective gasp echoed. Some journalists dropped their pens. Others froze, eyes wide. I can't say with absolute certainty that Ryan was my son, but I can say, with complete honesty, that I never wanted to know the truth. I accepted the most convenient version because it was easier and less risky. He lifted the picture frame and showed it to the nearest camera. "This is Ryan Miceli. He died at 19, in a motorcycle accident. He never had the chance to be acknowledged. He grew up surrounded by doubts, cruel remarks, and the silence of a man who could have changed everything. My silence." Michael lowered the photo reverently. His breathing trembled, but he continued. "Lisa Miceli was treated as crazy, ridiculed, imprisoned, discredited, because she dared to confront someone like me, an idol, a legend. And everyone believed me, even without evidence, because I hid behind my reputation." Silent tears streamed down the face of a reporter in the front row. Some lowered their cameras. Others couldn't stop filming. "I'm not here to clear my name, nor to ask for forgiveness. I'm here to tell the truth. Too late for Ryan, but maybe not too late, to prevent other stories like this from ending the same way." He opened the envelope, placed the documents on the table. "These papers will be handed over to the authorities, not to reopen a legal case, but so Ryan's story can be officially acknowledged, so that he isn't remembered merely as possibly the son of someone famous, but as someone who existed and deserved more." Michael looked directly into the camera lens. "Throughout my life, I've been called many things. Genius, champion, legend. But today, if I can be remembered only as a man who chose to stop running, that would be enough." He stood up slowly, said, before leaving, "Ryan, I never met you. But now, the whole world will know you, and no one will silence you again." Without taking questions, he exited stage left. The microphone remained on. The room was completely silent. For the first time in decades, Michael Jordan wasn't applauded, he was respected. As a man, not as a myth. Outside, in Meadville, Lisa watched everything on a small TV in her living room. When she saw Michael raise Ryan's photo, she covered her mouth with her hand. The tears came hard. But this time, they were different. Not of outrage, but of relief. For the first time in 20 years, she felt heard. She didn't win in court, nor in the media. But that afternoon, before millions of witnesses, she conquered the silence that had suffocated her for 2 decades. In the following days, headlines exploded across the news. Michael Jordan admits irreversible mistake in Ryan Miceli case. The speech that shook the sports world. Jordan takes responsibility. Ryan. The name that moved the planet. Cluth, but Michael said no more. He had said everything, and for the first time, the world listened. 2 weeks had passed since the press conference. The sports world was still trying to grasp the weight of that confession. Some questioned his motives. Others said it was just delayed guilt. But amid the headlines and debates, a new name began appearing, with unexpected frequency. Ryan Miceli. For the first time, the story didn't revolve around Michael Jordan. It revolved around a boy who grew up in the shadow of a legend, and whom the world only heard once it was too late. On a Sunday afternoon, with no bodyguards, no cameras, and no schedule, Michael parked alone in a discreet cemetery in Pennsylvania. He wore jeans, a dark jacket, and a cap pulled low over his eyes. In his arms, he carried something wrapped in white cloth. The walk was slow, as if each step weighed more than an NBA Finals. He stopped in front of a modest grave, covered in dry leaves. The inscription on the headstone was slightly worn, but still clear. Ryan David Miceli, 1989-2008. There, the greatest basketball player of all time knelt not as a legend, but as a man. He stayed silent for a few minutes, then unwrapped the cloth. It was an official NBA basketball, with his name printed in gold, signed by him. In the center, a handwritten message in black pen. In the eyes of the world, you may have never been my son, but in my heart, now you are forever. Forgive me, MJ. Michael gently placed the ball at the base of the tombstone. Then, he took a small gold pendant from his pocket, shaped like a basketball hoop with a tiny net. It was the same one he had discreetly worn during training sessions, in the 90 seconds a symbol few even knew existed. With trembling hands, he tied the pendant to the wooden cross beside the grave. He remained kneeling there for long minutes. No tears, no words, just a deep silence, as if each second were a mute plea for something that could never be restored. Days earlier, he had received a letter among Lisa's documents, a crumpled piece of paper with the shaky handwriting of a teenager. It was from Ryan. Dad, even if you never say it out loud, I just wanted to know if you ever thought about me. Sometimes I look in the mirror and wonder if we have the same chin, or the same way of walking. The truth is, I just wanted to meet you, even if it was just once. Ryan. Michael read the letter over and over, until he had it memorized. Until it stopped hurting. But it never did. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Lisa was receiving letters every day, from mothers who had been disbelieved, from young people who grew up not knowing their father's name, from ordinary people who suddenly saw themselves in her pain. They all said the same thing. Now I feel seen. Now I believe the world can change. Thank you for never giving up, even when no one listened. She couldn't reply to all of them, but she kept each one, like someone filing away scars. One morning, she too decided to visit the grave. She walked there alone, with a white rose in hand. When she saw the ball with the dedication and the pendant on the cross, she stopped in silence, touched the ball with her fingers, then knelt beside it, and whispered, "He came. Ryan. He came." In the following months, Michael vanished from the spotlight, canceled events, declined million-dollar invitations, avoided advertising campaigns. But he started appearing in places he'd never been before. Public school, basketball courts, community projects in neglected neighborhoods, makeshift courts in nameless alleys. He brought balls, equipment. He listened to stories, and there was one detail many noticed. On his shirt, instead of the legendary number 23 or the forgotten 45, Jordan began wearing number 19. When asked why, he would just smile and change the subject. But those who knew the story understood. At the Basketball Hall of Fame, where his name shines among the greatest of all time. A new item was discreetly added to the side wall of the exhibit. It was a black and white photograph. A boy holding a basketball in his lap, wearing a Red Bulls shirt, a shy smile, steady gaze. The caption, simple, Ryan Micely. The chapter no one read, but that changed the ending of the story. And so, without an audience, without headlines, without dunks, Michael Jordan perhaps scored the most important point of his life. Not on the court, but in silence, not to be cheered, but finally, to listen and honor the voice of someone who never had a stage. Ryan never asked for fame, nor fortune. He just wanted to be recognized. And now, even if too late, he was.